Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here. You might not believe it, but did you know that these hats, Absolabs hats, are actually best in slot for a particular build in Maplestory N right now? Every hat has its purpose, and today, some of you are super confused. You asked me on Discord, in the other gear series as well, you want to know which is the best hat for you. When do you go with a lucky hat, like a Chaos Vellum hat, or when do you go with a CRA hat, the one that you get from the Chaos Root Abyss, or even an Absolabs? We're going to be comparing the top three. Some of the lower level gear, eventually you will upgrade them to the best in slot, but these three are often the most confused ones that people don't really know which is better than the other, and that's what we're going to cover in this video as well. It's part of a video series of gearing. If you're interested in other parts of your equipment as well, you can take a look at the other gear available. But let's start off with the most easiest one out of them, and that is a lucky hat. I'll also explain what lucky hat is, so that it's very easy to understand. For those of you who don't know what a lucky hat is, it doesn't mean that the RNG of rolling this item is really very high. Doesn't mean it's very easy to tier as well. What a lucky hat is it counts towards any set of your armors. So accessories don't count. You can't put it towards your accessory sets. You have to go towards an armor set, which in this case is your Absolabs, it's your Fafnir, your CRA sets as well, or perhaps it's your Von Leon, your Empress, or eventually your arcaneshade sets, and whatever not as well. So your lucky counts to any of this. If you look at the top right over there, it shows you that the set that is applied is to a Root Abyss and Absolabs set as well. So why is this so good? Is because in absence of what is normally a CRA hat, a Root Abyss hat, you will notice that you wouldn't have gotten this boss damage 30% because you don't have the 4 set items equipped. So the lucky hat gives you that 30% boss damage. At the same time, it also counts towards an Absolabs set over here, which is basically an extra 10% boss damage. So for just one hat, you're getting an extra 30% boss damage, 40% boss damage, and 30% attack. That is very efficient, considering that you can have this totally naked, totally no potential, no stars, no flames, and it will still do a very good job as well. So right now in the game, the current game state, generally the rule of thumb is you look at what weapon you're using. If you're using a Fafnir weapon, any of the Fafnir weapons, your best in slot is going to be the Chaos Vellum hat. Majority of the time. Now, I say majority because there is a bit of a caveat as well. Generally speaking, the why this is best in slot is because you would combo with whatever other 4-piece set bonus that you're using. I will give you a caveat in a little bit as well. I'll show you another character of mine as well. But endgame state, when you are looking at slightly decent stats as well on your character, for example, Bishop somewhere around 24k with a bit of an Absolabs gear, you would be wanting to run a double set for the Chaos Vellum. Now, importantly, I just want to do a quick clarification in case you guys buy the wrong stuff. There are different versions of the hat. If you look over here on the market, there's a Vellum hat, there's a Chaos Vellum hat. This is not lucky. The Chaos is lucky, so doesn't mean as in like not literally lucky as in you get a better rolls on it, but what we just said about contributing to the set bonuses as well. Now, a next question that naturally some of you will ask is, EOD, do I pick the Vellum? Or because Vellum is an easier boss, so Queen is slightly harder. Queen is a better item, right? Like Chaos Queen Helmet or Chaos Vellum Helmet. The answer is no. All of them are actually the same in this version of the game. In other Maple stories, like I think was Reboot as well as like non-reboot servers, there is a bit of a distinction, but in this case, specifically for Maplestory N, there are no differences between the 4 different CRA hats, which is your Chaos Vellum, Chaos Queen, Chaos Pierre, and Chaos Vellum hats. They are all exactly the same. Now that we touch a bit on the merits of where the hat is, let's talk about shortcomings and when you actually won't want to use it as well. So I want to give you both sides of the equation when it's good. Generally speaking, for I would say 50% of players in the game right now, it's going to be best in slot. But there is probably an exception to this rule, and let's jump into that. If you are a relatively middle game player or early game player, your stats look something like this. Maybe you only have something like 16k or a lot less than that as well. Look at what I'm running here. I don't even have a set bonus on the other side over here. I don't even have like freaking Empress, or I'm running a Balrog shoes and a random neophyte off-piece unchained. In this case, if you're in this state where you're slowly transiting your gear, or you only have 2 pieces of gear, because very importantly, the lucky hat needs 3 pieces of the gear to perform. If you have, for example, 2 Root Abyss, but your weapon is like a Raven Horn Dagger or something like that, your lucky hat is not going to be applied. So only if your weapon is Root Abyss and your body is like Root Abyss, you have 3 CRA, then your lucky hat counts. Otherwise, it does not count. 2 pieces of a set does not help prop the lucky set. It literally states there in the item as well. So if you forget, it's right there in text. So don't worry about it. For in this case, this is an example where lucky hat is not very useful for this character. Why? Is because I don't prop a second bonus. Even if maybe you have like the Empress, maybe it is like gives you like a bit of flat stats and stuff like that. The difference between a lucky hat as well as these CRA hats that a lot of people forget. Number one, you can get very good flames on this. You can get boss flames on a CRA set as well. What are flames? Some of you are asking. We have a whole guide on that as well. What is the tiering? What is the flames you should stop at and whatever not. If you're interested, go to our channel, search like flame guide and you will find it all. This is going to be a very useful channel resource for you for MaplestoryN as well throughout your journey. You will see the numbers in light green over there, the plus 4% on all stats. That is a flame. If you look, just rewind a bit, my bishop is actually having a pretty decent flame already of 3% on the CRA, on the lucky hat. But here I'm actually having a low flame on the Royal Dunwitch Hat. It can go to like 6%, quite obtainable as well. And you can get very, very high flames on a CRA set. On top of that, you get defense ignore. This is always missed out by a lot of people. Using a lucky hat in this case, if I just like switch to 3-piece CRA and then I swap in a lucky hat with like maybe it's like exactly the same potential and bonus potential, the thing that I'm missing out is 1, flames, and secondly, it gives me 10% IED. So if your IED is abysmal, like you are like below 90%, that 10% IED is going to actually do quite a bit to bump this number up substantially. If you're at 80%, it bumps it like 2% up, so you'll be at 82. If you're at 90%, it brings it up to like 91%. So this 10% noticeable and it adds up along the way with other sources of IED. So if you are low IED, lucky hat may not be good for you because this gives you boss, but it takes away that 10% IED. In this case, you want like a placeholder, something like this one here, the Royal Dunwich Hat that I'm using. I'm just keeping it like 11 stars as epic and will like revisit this when I actually upgrade my gear. Of course, it takes a long time to upgrade gear, so sometimes you just want to like sit on some epic gear for a while. This is actually a lot better, especially since you get that 10% just by the base copy. And it's so cheap now, right? If you go into the Root Abyss and you pick it up, you can probably get this clean at like under 2 mil probably. With a day or like a week's farm for sure, like 90% of you will be able to purchase this as well. So that is for a CRA hat when it's actually useful. Generally, the rule of thumb is if you are in doubt, lucky hat usually tends to be a bit better, especially when you're transiting over to arcaneshade gear in future, because your weapon becomes arcaneshade. Eventually, all your rest of your gear becomes arcaneshade. Lucky hat will help you proc the very nice arcaneshade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 piece effect and whatever not as well later on for your arcaneshade gear, which is a way long time in future. We will touch on that another time when arcaneshade actually comes out, but basically lucky hat is definitely a lot better right now in the game. That's why you can see that these are not bought up. That's why no one buys, at least hardly people buy the CRA unless it becomes like dirt cheap in comparison. So that's the second situation for this scenario. Again, if you're using like a off-piece, like random pieces, like maybe you have a 2-piece Ravenhorn, 2-piece, whatever not, generally speaking, you want to go for this as well. The ID is like a lot more favorable. But later on, the boss damage that you get, the additional 10% boss from the lucky hat from the Absol set, you can tell it kind of outperforms because it's 10% boss damage. At the same time, it transits better over when you switch to arcaneshade. Yeah, and that's it, because you get that 10% boss versus 10% IED over here. You trade off the better flames for the Absol's flat attack. So that's a comparison between the two of them. Generally speaking, not a significant mistake from choosing either, in my opinion. The last case scenario, which is probably the best in slot, reason why you will go for an Absolabs, is particularly for a character in the game right now whose best in slot weapon is not a Fafnir. A lot of the times, people will talk about Fafnir weapons versus Absolabs weapons, and we will talk about that in a subsequent video. But generally, the preference, as you can see from the shop, is also slightly cheaper to Starforce Fafnir rather than the Absolabs at 150 versus 160 level. Characters that are using off-piece gear, for example, like this Liberated Kaiserium, which is best in slot for hero because of the massive attack that you get, doesn't contribute to the Fafnir set. So I'm basically only getting 2-piece Root Abyss set. And if I have a Fafnir hat on top, I will only be getting 3-piece. So CRA hat, I only get that 50 attack bonus. So 50 attack for the 3-piece effect. If I switch to a lucky hat, is even worse because I don't even get the 10% IED if I switch to a lucky hat, and I don't even get this effect over here. At the same time, if I'm running if I had full 4-piece over here already, my hat contributes to the 5-piece. So the comparison really is the 5-piece line versus that 10% IED, or 10% IED plus that 50 set bonus that you get from here. So 10% IED versus boss damage, but that goes away because you notice Absolute Knight Helm here has 10% IED as well, same as the Fafnir. So IED cancels out each other. At the end of the day, you are really comparing to a 50 attack line versus a 5 set bonus, 30 attack line, and 10% boss damage. So 20 attack, 10% boss outperforms 50 attack, especially since the Liberated Kaiserium already gives you that massive chunk of attack. So in this case, the Absolabs Helm is actually a lot more useful. One more thing that a lot of people don't understand and don't know is your Absolabs Flames can go extremely high. You can notice that 86 number on that strength. It can also be paired with a 6% strength, 6% all stats. So you can get very huge flames. Like this is relatively low all stats number, 3%. Strength is like okay. It's like 75, but you can go a lot higher. You can get these flames in a 160 Absolute Knight Helm, so that actually bridges the gap significantly for that 20 attack that you are missing. And in fact, it starts to outperform, especially with very good or above average flames, the Absolute Knight Helms outperforms. So not only is it useful for anything that is not using Liberated Kaiserium, if any of your classes, for some reason, maybe you felt it's more efficient to go with an Absolute weapon instead, and you are using already a 4-piece Absolute and you're trying to complete the set, in that case, consider the Absolabs Helm is very affordable. At the current pricing, this hat is the same price as the Fafnir hat, which makes no sense, especially since this weapon is best in slot. So that is something for you to consider. I hope you found this video helpful as well, because at the end of the day, this weapon will switch to the arcaneshade weapon, and you will still be missing out on the 4-piece Fafnir set bonus. But the arcaneshade weapon is, of course, the upgrade to this Liberated Kaiserium. In the future, we'll talk about it when it comes. But I hope you found this short sharing helpful as well. If you're interested in more content guides as well on the channel, you can check out the other videos and give me a thumbs up if you learn a thing or two, you like the way we present. Subscribe for more of such future content. See you guys in the next video.